I find myself saying this more and more recently, but it's been another crazy week from the perspective of a political podcaster. First, I planned on this episode being a breakdown of what happens now that the House and Senate passed the bill to release the Epstein files. Then, I was outraged when I saw the video of the President of the United States saying, "Shut up, piggy," to a female reporter who dared ask a question about that first story. That pissed me off enough, so I was going to do an episode on just his disgusting rhetoric. Plenty of that to choose from. But then I got derailed again. 6 sitting members of Congress, veterans, intelligence professionals, speaking directly to our troops and intelligence community. They make a short, powerful video. Their message: you took an oath to protect the Constitution. If you get an order that violates that oath, you must refuse it. There's no ideological spin. It's just a reminder of the law. And how does Donald Trump respond? By calling them traitors, demanding their arrest, shouting seditious behavior, punishable by death. He doubles down, reposting a message that says, "Hang them, George Washington would." That's not hyperbole. That's not metaphor. That's the President of the United States threatening to execute sitting members of Congress. So let me ask you, is that normal? Because a significant portion of this country sure acts like his constant insanity is nothing out of the ordinary. Welcome to another supplemental installment of Back Porch Files from your neighbor on the left, a podcast about liberal politics, human decency, and life on the blue side of America's ideological divide. My name is Don Spielis, your host. And today, buckle up. I'm not just going to talk about how scary things are getting. I'm calling them out. It's time for a dose of moral clarity, for sanity, because right now we're watching the unraveling of democratic norms, and too many people are acting like it's just business as usual. If you've listened to this podcast before, you know I don't shy away from big topics, but today I'm pissed. I'm not mad in a partisan way. I'm mad because what's unfolding is dangerous. And when people normalize this kind of rhetoric, they're enabling something far more sinister than just politics. And to those out there in the MAGA orbit, to Republicans who might quiet their unease in order to maintain loyalty, to normal people who still believe in the rule of law, this message is particularly for you. So let's get into it. Last week, 6 Democratic lawmakers, all with backgrounds in military or intelligence, released a short but incredibly pointed video. The group includes Senator Alyssa Slotkin, Senator Mark Kelly, Representatives Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, Maggie Goodlander, and Chrissy Houlihan. In the roughly 90 seconds of this video, they addressed the U.S. service members and intelligence personnel. They say they understand the extraordinary pressure that they're under. They remind them that they swore an oath, not to a person, but to the Constitution. And then they make it very clear. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders. You must refuse illegal orders. They close by saying, don't give up the ship. A historical allusion to resilience, to duty, to the idea that preserving the Constitution is not some optional political ploy, but a sacred obligation. That video went up on November 18th. Fast forward a bit. Donald Trump reacts on Truth Social. He unleashes a flurry of posts calling the lawmakers traitors. He demands they be arrested and put on trial. He says their message is seditious behavior, punishable by death. He reshares a user comment that says, "Hang them, George Washington would." Let me be clear. No president in the history of this country has ever done something quite like this. Now, unsurprisingly, some backlash was immediate. Members of the Democratic leadership condemned Trump's rhetoric. Others raised alarms about the incitement to violence. But seriously, threats of execution against elected officials from a former and current president? That is far, far from normal. But of course, not all the voices condemned it immediately. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said the congresspersons were wrong, and that what they had done had never been done before in U.S. history. Spoiler, he was wrong on both points, but I'll get to that in a moment. Now, let's gloss over, just for the sake of expediency, the point that a man who took deferments for bone spurs and never served a single day in the military has no damn standing to tell anyone anything about being in the military. The other obvious point is this: Trump is wrong. Flat out. Not just politically wrong, but legally and morally wrong. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, service members are obligated to disobey unlawful orders. This isn't some fringe theory. It is core doctrine. Simply following orders is not a free pass when the order clearly violates the Constitution. Mike Johnson, take note. That's where it's been said before. The idea that someone in uniform must obey all orders, even manifestly unconstitutional ones, is a myth and a dangerous one. And the congresspersons in the video weren't whispering radicalism. They were restating a fundamental legal truth. By refusing to acknowledge that, Trump is not just misrepresenting them, he's attacking the very rule of law he claims to lead. Those attacks are not the outlier in this administration. Sadly, they are the norm. Now, of course, this is not the first time that Trump has demonstrated a deep, troubling ignorance of how things actually work. He doesn't understand how percentages work. Anyone remember the whole drug prices lowering by 500%? He has no clue, or I guess just lies, about tariffs, economic policy, and trade, fundamental aspects of governance. He's baffled by even basic science, windmills, battery technology, electrification, like it's alien to him. He's not just controversial. He is unmoored from reality. And it's high time that we stop denying the fact that, in a leader, that can be lethal. We need to stop pretending this is just another day in political combat. This is escalation. He's lashing out like a man-child, so thin-skinned that any perceived slight unleashes a tantrum. He recently attacked Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene simply because she dared to disagree, and yes, she got threats afterwards. And not threats from the left, threats from the right. What he's doing is not respect for the law. It is outright contempt for it. Trump has repeatedly broken laws, skirted investigations, and attacked institutions. He lies constantly. Conversations get twisted or outright invented. Polling numbers are inflated or fantasized. His accomplishments half-baked, borrowed, or just simply fictitious. The economy is all skewed narratives, and his past is embellished at best. He's pathologically incapable of restraint or truth. Perhaps the most nauseating aspect of all of this, he's got a whole chorus of supporters, from MAGA diehards to GOP office holders, who bail him out and lie for him and defend him whenever things go off the rails. But guess what? That means they're complicit. When he yells sedition and calls for arrests and demands for trials and threatens executions, those that are right there with him are just as guilty. That cowardice, that complicity, it's why nothing changes, why the bar for outrage just keeps rising. So why such a ridiculous overreaction right now? Because it seems things might be closing in. After months of evading scrutiny over the Epstein files and the related investigations, the pressure is now mounting. A bill just passed, bringing more transparency. The most amazing thing is that he signed it into law without much of a comment. Just try and imagine what that conversation must have been like between him and his close confidants. He wants the narrative to shift, and this wave of extreme rhetoric, threatening Congress, inspiring violence, it's just the first volley. It's not just about punishing political opponents, although I'm sure he'd love to do that. It's about distracting, obfuscating, and rallying his base with chaos. And make no mistake, he is dangerous. We need to just say it. Because when you normalize talk of execution, when you encourage violence, when you undermine the rule of law over and over again, you're not just breaking norms. It's not hyperbole to say that this threatens democracy. And if you disagree, I dare you to explain to me why. Posts like these recent ones can absolutely inspire violence. Someone out there might take this as a literal call to action. That is not paranoia. It's real. We've seen it just this year. And then if something happens, the GOP playbook will be likely to blame the left, to say those radical Democrats are dangerous. But this rhetoric is coming from the top, from the person with the biggest megaphone. When it comes down to it, he's willing to stoke violence if it buys him even a little breathing room. That's not a leader. That is a coward. That is a threat. So what are we supposed to do? How do we respond? Here's where you, me, and every sensible American, yes, even the MAGA-leaning folks, need to draw a line in the sand. The courts must continue doing their job. The good news, the judiciary is already stepping in. There are cases underway. The courts are pushing back. Legal norms are being enforced. That needs to continue unapologetically. The American people, all of them, need to cut the rhetoric about courts being biased. If you want to stop going to court, Mr. President, stop doing illegal shit. Congress needs to reclaim its power. They must assert their constitutional authority. This is not theater. They need to censor Trump formally and loudly for these recent threats. But more than that, they need to be vocally opposed from both sides. Yes, Republicans, this is your problem too. When a president is threatening violence and calling it justice, we need the Republicans with spines to step up. And as for us citizens, we must be vigilant and loud. We can't go back to business as usual. As voters, we need to hold every member of Congress accountable, especially those who enable this. In the upcoming midterms, in future elections, whenever, pay attention. In those midterms, we need to change the balance in both the House and the Senate. We need there to be accountability, and the Republicans have proven time and time again they are not capable of it when they have the majority. And we need to demand moral clarity. Enough with the equivocations. We should not let threats of violence against representatives, or anybody for that matter, or any of the other batshit crazy stuff that he's doing, continue to be normalized. We have to reject the normalization of dangerous rhetoric. Yes, we have more than 3 years of this presidency ahead. That is a lot of time for small increments to become overwhelming problems. We must say, loudly and clearly, we are not okay with this. We are not okay with threats of execution. We are not okay with sedition-laced rants. We are not okay with constant lying. We are not okay with any of this. We must stop pretending that any of this is normal or safe. Look, if you want to call this episode just another rant, do as you must. I believe it's a call to moral and civic responsibility. Donald Trump, his rhetoric, his responses, his behavior is not normal. He is not a regular politician. He is not just a flawed leader. He is crossing lines, undermining institutions, and stoking violence, and far too many people are acting like it's just another Friday. We cannot pretend that's okay. We cannot stay quiet. Whether you lean left, right, or center, if you believe in the rule of law, in the Constitution, in democracy, this should terrify you. So here's what I'd like you to do after this episode. Talk to someone, a friend, a family member, whoever, about this. Don't let it sit. Stay informed. Follow credible reporting. Demand more from your leaders. When the time comes, at the ballot box, in public discourse, vote for accountability. Vote for democracy. We have got to stop normalizing the abnormal. We've got to stop pretending that things like posting punishable by death about elected officials is just partisan politics. It is not. And if we don't draw the line now, I don't know that we ever will. That is this week's episode of Back Porch Files from your neighbor on the left. I thank any of you who took the time to download and listen to this. And more so than any other time, I would like feedback. You can use any of the social media platforms for the podcast. All of those are on the Linktree page, and the address to the Linktree page is in the podcast description. You can also email the podcast at neighborotleftpodcast@gmail.com. Please do. Please tell me what you think. Please don't be silent. We'll be back on Tuesday with another full episode of Your Neighbor on the Left. Until then, stay vigilant, stay kind, and have the kind of week you'd wish for others.